A single question lingered in the air, quiet, almost fragile, yet heavy enough to stir the past from its grave. Do you believe in reincarnation? In that moment, Tienqa felt something within her tremble, as if a forgotten life was trying to awaken. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. So Elder Cheng must have already passed, Han Li murmured under his breath. His gaze lingered on the cavern ceiling, his thoughts drifting into a deep, distant reverie. High above the roof bore signs of having once been pierced by cultivators of the ghost spirit sect. Yet after a century's passage, no trace of repair could be discerned, as if time itself had quietly erased all evidence. The burly man noticed Han Li's absent-minded state, but did not dare act rashly. He stood rigid, his expression respectful, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Without warning, Han Li flicked his sleeve. A surge of azure light burst forth, sweeping toward the man's head. A jolt of terror shot through the burly man's heart, but before he could react, darkness claimed him, his body collapsing to the ground, utterly unconscious. Han Li cast a brief glance at the fallen figure. Then, with a series of swift finger flicks, several streaks of golden sword, chi shot forth, piercing into the formation behind them. A thunderous boom resounded. The formation shattered completely. Aside from a massive crater gouged into the ground, nothing remained to suggest that a teleportation array had ever existed there. Since Han Li had already restored the corresponding formation in the scattered star seas, there was no longer any need for this one to remain. Otherwise, anyone in possession of a greater teleportation medallion, as he once had, could traverse the same path, and that was something Han Li had no intention of allowing. This shortcut was his alone. By now, he was intimately familiar with the structure and principles behind teleportation arrays. Should the need arise, he could reconstruct it here at any time without difficulty. Moreover, with his current wealth, the once daunting cost of materials had long since become trivial. Having finished, Han Li extended a hand and made a grasping motion toward the unconscious man. An immense suction force seized the man's head, dragging it firmly into Han Li's palm. A faint gleam flickered in Han Li's eyes as he activated a secret technique. Moments later, he released his grip, and the man's body dropped limply back to the ground. "You're fortunate you spoke the truth," Han Li said flatly. "I do not go back on my word, so I will spare your life. But your memories, those must be erased." He had already altered the man's recollection. In the man's mind, an indistinct, high-grade cultivator had descended like a heavenly being, slaughtered the Devil Flame sect members, and inadvertently destroyed the ancient teleportation array in the aftermath of their battle. With Han Li's current cultivation, unless a deity transformation cultivator intervened, no one would be able to unravel the restrictions he had placed. Satisfied, Han Li flicked his fingers again. Several fireballs shot out, reducing the Devil Flame sect cultivators' corpses to drifting ash. Azure radiance then erupted from his body, sweeping Tienqa up as he soared skyward. With an earth-shaking crash, the cavern roof once repaired by the Ghost Spirit sect was torn open once more. The streak of azure light flashed upward, piercing through to the surface in an instant, before vanishing into the distant horizon after only a few flickers. Not long after, Ghost Spirit sect cultivators rushed to the scene, drawn by the tremendous disturbance. All they found was the unconscious burly man and a cavern reduced to utter ruin. Unbeknownst to them, a carefully orchestrated ambush by the Devil Flame sect had been effortlessly thwarted. Meanwhile, Han Li was already en route to the state of Shi. At his current level of cultivation, his speed was nothing short of extraordinary. Even without exerting his full power, his flight was astonishingly swift. Along the way, he occasionally passed other cultivators. To them, it was as if a streak of azure light had flickered briefly in the distance, gone in the blink of an eye. Many were left stunned. Those with sharper perception realized they had just witnessed an unfathomably powerful senior. The weaker ones, however, whispered of strange omens, convinced they had encountered some supernatural entity in broad daylight. Within mere days, Han Li crossed the state of Yue and entered the state of Yuanwu. 2 days later, as he continued onward, a thought suddenly crossed his mind. He hesitated briefly, then altered his course, flying in a different direction with Tienqa. Near a secluded mountain along the border of Yuanwu, a streak of azure light flashed into view. In the blink of an eye, a radiant arc over 100 feet long descended and halted above the mountain. The light faded, revealing Han Li and Tienqa. Han Li gazed down at the peak, a faint ripple of emotion surfacing in his eyes. As his spiritual sense swept downward, surprise flickered across his face. This was the very mountain where Xin Ruyin had once lived in seclusion. The landscape itself remained unchanged, but now it was no longer empty. He could sense numerous cultivators below most at the qi condensation and foundation establishment stages, with 2 core formation cultivators among them. Some of Xin Ruyin's old formations still lingered, blanketing the mountain in dense white mist, concealing everything beneath. Han Li narrowed his eyes, lost in thought. "Master, is something wrong?" Tienqa asked softly. "Nothing of consequence," Han Li replied calmly. "It's just that after a few years away, some uninvited guests seem to have taken residence here." Though his tone was indifferent, a trace of displeasure lingered in his expression. Tienqa wisely chose not to press further. Instead, Han Li turned to her suddenly. "What do you think of this mountain?" Caught off guard, she examined it carefully before answering. "The spiritual qi isn't particularly rich, but the scenery is quite beautiful." "This was once the home of an old acquaintance," Han Li said quietly. A flicker of disappointment crossed his face, but it vanished just as quickly. He raised a hand. With a sharp crackle, a crimson fireball sprang into existence. It hovered above his palm, spinning rapidly, swelling in size at an astonishing rate. Within a single breath, it had grown to the size of a wash basin, radiating intense heat. Han Li's expression turned cold. With a casual wave, the fireball shot downward like a falling star, vanishing into the mist. A violent explosion followed. The white mist churned wildly as flames erupted, tearing open a massive hole over 100 feet wide. The restriction collapsed under the inferno, its remnants evaporating into steam. With a single fireball, Han Li had obliterated the entire formation. As the mist dissipated, the mountain's hidden structures came into view. Pavilions and buildings now stood where once only bamboo dwellings had been. Xin Ruyin's home was gone. Han Li's expression darkened. Below, the cultivators had already been alarmed. Figures shot into the air, converging rapidly toward Han Li. Before they could approach, a clear voice rang out. "Which esteemed senior honors our wing transformation sect with their presence? I am Guanqing. Please forgive our failure to welcome you properly." A streak of red light shot upward, outpacing the others. It halted before Han Li, revealing a middle-aged scholar in robes. Moments later, a streak of yellow light followed, resolving into a dark-skinned, powerfully built elder. Both were core formation cultivators. Only then did the foundation establishment cultivators arrive, forming ranks behind them, their expressions tense. "Wing transformation sect." Han Li echoed, raising an eyebrow. "I've never heard of it." "A newly established sect, I presume." As he spoke, an overwhelming spiritual pressure surged forth, crashing down upon the 2 core formation cultivators. Their expressions changed drastically. They staggered backward, barely managing to steady themselves. "A nascent soul cultivator," the scholar exclaimed. "A late nascent soul cultivator," the elder gasped, disbelief etched across his face. Han Li made no effort to conceal his aura. The 2 exchanged glances, then bowed deeply in unison. "We pay our respects, senior," the elder said cautiously. "Our sect was indeed established recently. May we ask the purpose of your visit? If there is anything we can assist with, we will do our utmost." The scholar echoed his deference. Before such a being, one who could annihilate their entire sect with ease, they dared not show the slightest disrespect. Behind them, the foundation establishment cultivators were utterly petrified. To them, a late nascent soul cultivator was the very pinnacle of power. "Since your sect is newly founded, Han Li said coldly, "You should have a nascent soul cultivator presiding over it." "Where is your master?" The elder steadied himself before replying, "Our master, Huang Yao the Enlightened, departed a month ago to visit an old friend. We are merely overseeing the sect in his absence." "Not here," Han Li said. "No matter." His gaze sharpened. "When did you occupy this place? And what became of the person who once lived here?" The elder hesitated, glancing at the scholar. "We moved here 70 years ago. As for the former resident..." The scholar's eyes flickered. Without turning, he called out sharply, "Feng Zhe, come here. This senior has questions for you." At once, all the Foundation establishment cultivators turned toward one man, an elderly cultivator with refined features appearing past 60. Feng Zhe. And at this moment he stood frozen shock, written plainly across his face. "You were calling for me?" Master Feng Zhe hesitated, his voice uncertain, as if afraid he had misheard. "Yes, you. Come here at once," the scholar snapped, impatience lacing his tone. "This senior has questions for you." "Didn't you reside here before we arrived?" "Yes, I'm coming immediately." Reassured that he had not mistaken the summons, the elderly Foundation establishment cultivator steeled himself and hurried over, suppressing the unease rising in his chest. Han Li's gaze settled upon him. "You lived here before?" "Yes, senior. Before I joined the sect, I resided here just as my ancestors had for generations," Feng Zhe replied, his voice tinged with nervousness. Han Li gave a faint nod, then asked a question that left everyone momentarily stunned. "How did you reach the Foundation establishment stage?" Feng Zhe blinked in confusion, but answered without hesitation. "Many years ago, my mother encountered a powerful senior. That senior bestowed upon her a Foundation establishment pill, which allowed me to advance." "I see. Then you must be Xiao Mei's descendant." The tension in Han Li's expression eased, if only slightly. Feng Zhe froze for an instant. Then realization dawned and his eyes widened. "Xiao Mei, you mean my maternal grandmother senior? Could it be you were the one who gave my mother that pill?" Han Li chuckled softly. "You're rather perceptive." Senior overcome with emotion. Feng Zhe dropped to his knees mid-air, his face lit with both astonishment and joy. "I thank you for your great kindness. I have long wished to meet you and express my gratitude in person." Behind him, the scholar and the dark-skinned elder stood utterly dumbfounded. Han Li allowed the gesture before speaking again, his tone calm but distant. "Back then, I was far from my current level. I crossed paths with your ancestors more than once, and later met your mother, to whom I gave that pill." His eyes flicked over Feng Zhe, measuring. "Your cultivation, however, has stagnated at mid-Foundation establishment. Your aptitude is unremarkable. At your age, your path will likely end here." Feng Zhe lowered his head, shame coloring his features. "I apologize for disappointing you, senior." "Ha! There is nothing for me to be disappointed about." Han Li's tone was indifferent. Then abruptly it turned cold. "Tell me, how did this wing transformation sect come to occupy this place? Do you not know whose residence this once was? Your grandmother's master was a close friend of mine." A chill crept into the air. The expressions of the scholar and the dark-skinned elder changed instantly. Feng Zhe's heart lurched. I am aware, senior. That is precisely why I insisted that Senior Shin's bamboo residence be relocated to the other side of the mountain. It has been preserved exactly as it was. I have not allowed anyone to damage it. That was my condition before the sect settled here." "Is that so?" Han Li's gaze shifted, cold and piercing, toward the two core formation cultivators. The scholar immediately stepped forward, sensing the source of Han Li's displeasure. "It is exactly as he says, senior. This is not the true base of our wing transformation sect. It is only a temporary residence. We had matters to attend to within the state of Yuanwu, so we remained here for convenience. After relocating fellow Taoist Shin's bamboo residence, we have not altered it in the slightest." "I see." Han Li's voice was calm but carried an unmistakable edge. "Regardless, this is the former home of an old friend. I do not wish to see other cultivators lingering here." He paused briefly. I trust you understand what must be done. The dark-skinned elder shuddered. Of course, we will evacuate immediately. The scholar nodded fervently in agreement. Good. Han Li turned back to Feng Ji. Take me to those bamboo buildings. At once, senior, Feng Ji dared not delay. After bowing respectfully to his master, he activated his treasure and led the way toward the far side of the mountain. Azure light flared around Han Li, sweeping Tienqa along as he followed. Only after they departed did the scholar let out a long breath. He transmitted his voice to the dark-skinned elder, his tone still tense. That man, is he truly a late nascent soul cultivator? We're not mistaken, are we? He doesn't resemble any of the three legendary great cultivators. Even at this distance, he dared not speak aloud. That is certain, the elder replied gravely. The pressure he released, it far surpassed even our masters. He is no ordinary figure. Perhaps a fourth great cultivator has emerged. If that were the case, word should have already spread across the entire Heavenly South region, the scholar muttered. Enough speculation. Whoever he is not someone our master would dare offend. We must evacuate at once. If we delay and he changes his mind, we will not survive it. The elder said, his voice heavy. You're right, senior martial brother. I'll begin preparations immediately. Still, it's a pity to abandon such an excellent location. We are fortunate to escape with our lives. Thank heavens you accepted Feng Ji as your disciple. Without that connection, I suspect our sect would already have been wiped out in his anger. He paused, frowning. How was I unaware that your disciple had ties to such a figure? Did you know of this, and who exactly was the former resident here to have been acquainted with someone of that level? The scholar gave a wry smile. I knew nothing. I accepted Feng Ji long ago simply because he had reached foundation establishment. His aptitude is mediocre, so I paid him little attention. I did ask about the former resident once the formations here are crude but effective. Yet Feng Ji told me the person was merely a qi condensation cultivator, so I dismissed it. A qi condensation cultivator and a late nascent soul cultivator. The elder fell silent at a loss for words. The scholar could only sigh. Without further delay, they returned below and began organizing the evacuation. Hundreds of disciples hurried to pack their belongings, preparing to abandon the site. Meanwhile, Han Li had already entered a jade-green bamboo pavilion with Tienqa at his side. The structure was clean, carefully maintained, despite the weight of years etched into its frame. Feng Ji led the way, speaking with careful deference. After relocating these buildings, I followed my mother's instructions, infusing them with spiritual energy regularly to prevent decay, and keeping them well maintained. That is good. Han Li's lips curved faintly as he stepped into the main hall, his gaze sweeping across the room. If memory served, this had been Xin Ruyin's dwelling. Everything remained as it once had, except she was gone. A quiet sigh stirred within him. As his eyes shifted to Tienqa, something in his heart wavered. She stood motionless, her eyes distant and unfocused, fingers trailing gently across the bamboo furnishings. As she moved slowly through the room, she seemed lost in a dream, caught between past and present. A complicated expression flickered through Han Li's eyes. After a long silence, he waved Feng Ji away. Leave us. My disciple and I will remain here for a day. Return tomorrow. His tone allowed no refusal. Feng Ji nodded respectfully and withdrew. Han Li's figure blurred, reappearing in a quiet corner. He sat down, closed his eyes, and entered meditation, leaving Tienqa to wander alone through the remnants of another life. The next morning, Feng Ji returned uneasily. But Han Li and his disciple were already gone. Only 2 small vials remained on the bamboo table. Feng Ji's breath caught, his face lit up with unrestrained joy. Treasures left behind by a late nascent soul cultivator, how could they be anything but extraordinary? He carefully stored them away, resolve hardening within his heart. He would preserve this place with utmost care. If that senior ever returned, perhaps greater fortune would follow. Far away, Hanli was already hundreds of thousands of kilometers distant. Yet the dazed look in Tienqina's eyes had not faded. If anything, it had deepened, becoming more distant, more unsettled. She had remained silent the entire journey, until at last she spoke. "Master, why did you bring me there? Did those bamboo buildings have something to do with me?" I was not certain before Hanli replied calmly, but now I am almost sure they do. "What do they— Do you believe in reincarnation?" His question cut her off, and at once Tienqina's expression changed drastically. "Master, what do you mean by that?" Tienqina asked, a faint unease creeping into her voice. Instead of answering directly, Hanli asked calmly, "What did you feel while you were inside that bamboo residence?" I don't know," Tienqina murmured. "It was a strange feeling, something I can't quite describe." Hanli fell silent for a moment before speaking slowly, his voice tinged with quiet reminiscence. "That place belonged to an old friend of mine. She too possessed the dragon cry physique, and she was a natural genius in formation spells. But she passed away, far too young." Tienqina faltered, her brows knitting together. "Didn't you try to save her, master?" Hanli gave a faint self-deprecating smile. "At the time, I hadn't even reached the core formation stage. How could I have saved her? Besides, her heart had already died long before her body did." He paused, then continued. "The formation spell book I gave you was originally hers. I first came to know her through another cultivator, Xianxia. Back then, I had just reached the foundation establishment stage and attended an underground auction." His voice grew steady, almost distant, as he recounted the past, how chance had brought him to Xianxia, how that meeting had led him to Xin Ruyin, and how fate had ultimately claimed both their lives. He spoke of everything, from their first encounter to their final parting, even of the servant he met afterward, carrying the lingering traces of a story already ended. Only when he finished did silence fall once more. Tienqina stood there utterly stunned. After a long while, she exhaled softly, her expression complicated and difficult to read. "I see," she said quietly. "So, you think I might be her reincarnation, master?" "I had my doubts at first," Hanli replied with a faint chuckle. "But after seeing you in that bamboo residence, I am at least 50% certain. And for me, that is enough." He looked ahead, his gaze calm yet distant. "It would seem that reincarnation may truly exist after all." Tienqina hesitated, unease flickering across her face. "Then, the reason you accepted me, do not overthink it." Hanli said, his tone gentle but firm. "I accepted you because I genuinely wished to. Xin Ruyin was a dear friend, and I held her in high regard." He turned slightly toward her. "It is true you may be her reincarnation, but more importantly, you possess the same rare physique and talent. I wish to nurture you into a true master of formation spells. In the future, you may be of great help to me." After a brief pause, he added calmly, "Of course, if you no longer wish to be my disciple, I can return you to the scattered star seas immediately." Tienqina's expression changed at once. She shook her head hurriedly, a trace of panic surfacing. "I don't know whether I'm truly your friend's reincarnation, and even if I am, I remember nothing of that life. But to be accepted by you, master a great cultivator despite my mere chi condensation stage, this is a blessing I could never hope for again. How could I possibly give it up?" After all, no formal ceremony had yet been held. She was for now only a disciple in name. Hanli smiled faintly. "Good. I cannot promise you everything, but at the very least I can ensure that you safely reach the core formation stage." Tienqina immediately bowed her head. "China is willing to serve master with all her heart." "Very well. Once we return to the drifting cloud sect, I will formally accept you as my disciple. I have never taken in a true disciple before, though I do have one nominal disciple. You will meet her then." A bright, delighted smile blossomed across Tienqina's face. With that, Hanli increased his speed once more. In the blink of an eye, the two of them vanished into the distant horizon. Several months later, they arrived at the state of Shi. A few days after that, a piercing streak of azure light appeared near the Dreamcloud Mountains. When they were still some 50 kilometers away, a thunderous cry suddenly erupted from within the light. It resembled the roar of a dragon, yet also the cry of a phoenix. The sound rippled through the air, disturbing even the drifting clouds themselves. The streak of azure light surged forward at incredible speed, crossing dozens of kilometers in mere flashes. The immense spiritual power contained within that cry alerted all three major sects within the Dreamcloud Mountains. From the lowest chi condensation disciples to the nascent soul elders, all were shaken. The nascent soul cultivators reacted immediately, emerging from their sects to identify the audacious figure announcing their arrival in such a domineering fashion. Thus, while Han Li was still nearly 10 kilometers away, 5 streaks of light had already shot forth to intercept him. Han Li's heart stirred at the sight. His thoughts had been in quiet turmoil at the prospect of seeing Nangong Wan again. But now, he forcibly steadied himself. The azure light faded, the resounding cry ceased. Han Li appeared Tienqa by his side, his gaze turning toward the approaching figures. Moments later, a rare, genuinely joyful smile spread across his face. As the 5 figures drew within several hundred feet, their lights dissipated, revealing familiar faces. A middle-aged man in blue robes stared at Han Li, stunned for a split second, before exclaiming with delight, "Junior Marshal Brother Han." It was none other than Elder Lu of the Drifting Cloud sect, the very man who had once invited Han Li to join. "You look well, Senior Marshal Brother Lu." Han Li's smile deepened as he returned the greeting with a respectful salute. "So it truly is, fellow Taoist Han," another voice rang out. A red-robed cultivator stepped forward. It was Child Fire Dragon of the Ancient Sword sect. "I was wondering who could display such overwhelming power." "Wait, Brother Han, have you already reached the late nascent soul stage?" His expression was as if he had seen a ghost. Han Li glanced at him, smiling faintly. "Brother Lan, you've reached mid-nascent soul yourself, have you not?" Child Fire Dragon swallowed, forcing a dry laugh. "Surely you jest. My progress pales in comparison to your ascension to great cultivator status." His words sent shockwaves through the others. One by one, they swept their spiritual sense over Han Li, only to freeze in stunned disbelief. Lu Luo's voice trembled. "Junior Marshal Brother, is it true? Have you truly reached the late nascent soul stage?" "My journey bore some fruit," Han Li replied calmly. "I advanced by chance." Lu Luo's face lit up with uncontrollable joy. "Congratulations," Brother Han, Elder Feng said warmly, recovering from his shock. "Who would have thought that in just a century you would reach such heights with you here? The Dreamcloud Mountains will surely rise in prominence across the heavenly south region." Han Li merely nodded with a faint smile. Though both were nascent soul cultivators, the gulf between early and late stages was vast, so vast that even peers could not help but feel diminished in his presence. As for the remaining 2 unfamiliar elders, they offered respectful greetings but spoke no further, clearly uneasy. "Brother Lan, fellow Taoist Feng," Han Li said, "you may return for now. I intend to remain at my sect for a few days. After that, I will visit your sects." Both immediately declined, insisting instead on visiting him at the Drifting Cloud sect in 3 days. After securing his agreement, they departed. Only Lu Luo remained. Once the others were gone, Han Li frowned slightly. "Senior Marshal Brother Lu, the other sects have all gained new nascent soul cultivators. Does our sect still lack one? Why did you personally come to receive me?" Lu Luo sighed awkwardly. "Though your reputation has drawn in many talented disciples, their cultivation is still insufficient. Few are close to nascent soul, but in time they will become pillars of the sect." His gaze shifted to Tienqa. "And this is a disciple I accepted during my travels. The formal ceremony has yet to be held," Han Li replied. Tienqa stepped forward, immediately offering a respectful curtsy. "Tienqa greets Marshal Uncle Lu." Though only at chi condensation, her status as Han Li's disciple set her apart entirely. "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to begin taking disciples so soon." Lu Luo laughed. As your martial uncle, I don't have much, but take this. With a flick of his hand, a shimmering red crystal sphere appeared, which he handed to her. Tienqa hesitated, then accepted it with visible delight. Thank you, martial uncle. Han Li smiled faintly as the two of them set off toward the drifting cloud sect. Along the way, Luluo recounted the events of the past century. Most notable among them, the passing of senior marshal brother Cheng, and Nangong Wan's precarious condition. Han Li had expected the former, yet still felt a quiet pang of sorrow. But when he heard of Nangong Wan, his heart sank. Tension tightened across his face. Seeing this, Luluo quickly reassured him with a smile. Do not worry, junior marshal brother. Though her seal has yet to be broken, she has already awakened. She is safe. He paused before adding, it's just that she is currently cultivating within the ice wall. If she emerges now, all her efforts will be for nothing.